You have more access than any generation in human history, more information than you can consume in a lifetime, more tools than entire industries had just 20 years ago, more opportunity, at least on the surface, than any point before now. At any moment, you can learn almost anything, build almost anything, reach almost anyone, and yet most people are producing less with it. Not more, less. They're starting more, they're thinking more, they're consuming more, but finishing less, building less, becoming less effective over time. That's not a motivation problem. That's not laziness. That is a systems problem. We were told that more access would solve everything. That once information became unlimited, performance would follow naturally. That if people just had the right tools, the right knowledge, the right environment, they would rise, they would build, they would execute. But that assumption missed something critical. Access removes friction, and friction, when used correctly, is what creates focus. When everything becomes available, nothing stands out as necessary. When nothing stands out as necessary, nothing demands your attention. And when nothing demands your attention, you stop making hard choices. You move sideways instead of forward. You explore instead of committing. You sample instead of building. And over time, something subtle but dangerous happens. You begin to confuse movement with progress. You feel engaged. You feel active. You feel like you are doing something meaningful. But when you step back, there's very little to show for it. Because exposure is not execution. Access is not output, and information is not transformation. The environment evolved rapidly, but human behavior did not evolve with it. The human brain is not optimized for abundance. It's optimized for constraint, for pressure, for urgency, for situations where action has consequences. For most of human history, the structure was clear. If you did not act, something failed. If you did not decide, something was lost. If you did not move, something broke. That created a natural hierarchy of importance. Your brain knew what mattered because the environment made it obvious. Now that structure is gone, and in its place you have unlimited input, continuous stimulation, no immediate consequences for inaction. And that combination creates a very specific outcome: attention fragmentation. Your focus is constantly divided, not because you're weak, but because everything is competing equally for your attention. Important signals, irrelevant distractions, opportunities, noise, all presented with the same weight. So your brain struggles to prioritize. And when prioritization weakens, execution collapses. You don't lack intelligence. You don't lack potential. You lack a structure that forces decisions. This is why structured direction systems exist. Not to give you more information, but to force clarity in an environment that removes it. Now here's the part that changes everything. Access is not advantage. Access is noise until it is filtered, constrained, and directed. Right now, most people are not struggling because they have too few options. They're struggling because they have too many and no pressure to eliminate any of them. So they remain in a constant state of partial engagement. They start multiple things, they rarely finish. They learn continuously, but apply inconsistently. They plan extensively, but execute selectively. And because there is no immediate penalty for this behavior, it feels acceptable. It feels normal. It feels like progress. But the cost is delayed. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because delayed cost is easy to ignore until it compounds. Over time, this creates a deeper problem. You begin to lose trust in your own ability to follow through. You start to question your discipline, your consistency, your direction. Not because you're incapable, but because the system you're operating in does not reward completion. It rewards engagement. And those are not the same thing. So what actually works in this environment? You do not add more, you subtract. You remove options until one path becomes dominant, until one direction becomes unavoidable. You create constraint where none naturally exist. You define a single outcome that must be completed, not explored, not researched, not refined endlessly, completed. You introduce pressure, even if you have to manufacture it. Deadlines that matter, commitments that are visible, targets that are measurable, because your brain does not respond to possibility, it responds to necessity. And when something becomes optional, it drifts. When something becomes required, it gets done. That is the shift. Not more access, not more information, better constraint, stronger direction, clear completion. Before we wrap, what is the one area of your life where you have more access than results? Where you know more than what you are applying? Drop it in the comments. This channel is built around one idea: staying valuable in a world where survival is no longer the primary pressure. Because the next phase of society is not about access. That part is already solved. It's about direction. It's about building when nothing is forcing you to build. It's about choosing when everything is available. It's about maintaining focus when distractions are constant. If you understand that shift and you want to stay ahead of it, subscribe. I am D.B. Lewis. This is Post-Scarcity Human. I will see you in the next one.